I'm in the hood. What is up, guys? It's MegamanChiefFan here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be doing January halfway mark wrap-up. Yay! So, pretty much, why does this video exist? Why aren't you waiting until the end of the month? Well, here's the thing. I have 11 books to show off already. 11! If you know me, reading 11 books, or 10 and a half because I'm reading one right now, but 10 and a half books in 13 days is incredible. It is absolutely incredible for me to read 10 and a half books in 13 days. I'm just... mind's blown. I don't want to kill any more time. I'm just going to jump right into it. Now, I'm going to format this just like my December wrap-up video and do the books that I don't own first, just to get things out of the way. So, first up, we have The Plague by Albert Camus. I didn't like this. I didn't like this, like, at all. It started out amazing. It started out really, really good. And it just plummeted to complete horrificness, if that's even a word. Because it's so bad at parts that it makes me want to punch a wall and just scream in agony. Because this book could have been phenomenal. But there is just so much wrong with this book that the few good elements are completely hindered and makes this a bad book. Now, my major issue with this book is the fact that Albert Camus really does like a lot of theories in his books as well as telling the story, and in The Stranger, which I'll talk about later, he did it amazingly. He tied in those themes with the story amazingly. It just was a perfect picture overall, and I loved The Stranger. But The Plague, you can really tell when he's just going off about his theories. It's so obvious that it just reeks of pretentiousness. This novel was so pretentious and thinks that it's saying so much, but it's not. It's not saying anything at all. It's just saying the same things over again. Oh yeah, this plague is bad. You gotta destroy this plague. You gotta move these people around to avoid the plague. That's what we gonna do because the plague is bad. That is not how you're supposed to write a book with complex themes, and for that reason, I gave The Plague 2 stars. Now, next up is a book that I was shocked. I was completely stunned because I read the main focus of this story collection all the way back in October, and I didn't really like it. And I still don't like that specific story, but the other stories in this collection are fantastic. What did I read? I read the complete stories of Franz Kafka. Now, don't get me wrong, this collection really isn't like, oh my god, amazing, it's the greatest thing ever, It's good. It's good. I liked Franz Kafka, and it's really nice to see that, because it gives me a little hope for when I'm about to go into the trial in a few months, or whenever I finally read the trial. But the one story I want to focus on the most is Metamorphosis. I'm sorry. This is the story that I did not like. Everybody keeps on saying that Metamorphosis is pretty much Kafka's masterpiece, and it's just absolutely fantastic, and it's so deep. But honestly, all I saw for like 80 pages was just about a cockroach. And a bland cockroach that I really don't care about at all. It's just so bland, and it drags on for an eternity that it just makes me fall asleep. However, the rest of the stories are fantastic. They're phenomenal, actually. I loved the story The Stoker. Like, if you haven't read The Stoker by Franz Kafka yet, go read The Stoker by Franz Kafka. It's phenomenal. But this short story collection, I liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, which is my not usual rating, because I give a lot of books 4 stars as well. But it's the bare minimum to call it good. That's pretty much all I have to say. It's good. I can safely recommend it. Even Metamorphosis, which I don't really like that much, but it's an experience. You may like it. The next book that I read is a part of an author that I made a massive discovery with. Ray Bradbury. I have to talk about a certain book later, but first, we're going to talk about The Martian Chronicles. And this book, yeah. It's a short story collection about Martians, of course. And what did I think about this? That's a good question. On one point, there are some really good stories in here. Like, there's a story called The Earthmen and There Will Come Soft Rains. Like, The Earthmen and the Earthmen, sorry, and There Will Come Soft Rains. Those are two fantastic short stories. One of the stories come before, like, early on in the book, and one of them is the last stories. I think one of the last stories is There Will Come Soft Rains, but The Earthmen is the one that really just blew my mind, and it was just so fantastic, and I can't recommend that story enough. However, there's such a slew of bland and forgettable stories in here that, honestly, I don't really care. I really don't care about these stories. They're just meh. But I don't know what to say anymore. I really don't know what to say anymore about the Martian Chronicles, because out of all the books in this pile, besides a certain one which I'll explain later, this is easily the most forgettable. And from Ray Bradbury, which is another experience I have to talk about later with a certain book, it's very bland. It's very bland, or at least certain parts are bland. Like I said, The Earthmen and There Will Come Soft Rains are fantastic stories, and I can't recommend them enough. But really, want to read those two short stories, you can easily pass on the others. It's okay. I give it a 3 out of 5. And now, we're going into my physical copy books. Yay! So, the first one is the one I'm currently reading right now, and I started this today, and I'm probably going to finish this tonight because it's such a short read, but it's so great so far, and it is The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. This is my first Crane. Let that sink in. This is amazing. This is shaping up to being one of the best books of the month. Holy moly, this is good. This is really, really good. It's about, of course, it's about the Civil War and about a young man named Henry Fleming, and he's trying to survive the war. And he follows a lot of colorful characters and really dramatic moments. Like, I'm only 30 pages in and there's already stuff going on. Like I said, it's horrifically thin. It's only like 150 pages. But The Red Badge of Courage, it's really good so far. If it keeps up this quality, this is definitely a book I gotta have for my collection, because it's The Red Badge of Courage. You probably know of it. It's really, really famous. It's great. It truly is great. I love it. What else do I have to say? And the next book is out of my John Steinbeck collection, and I read The Red Pony. I hope I'm pointing at the right one, but The Red Pony. It was good. It was good. And it's really saddening for me to say that, because there's one short story. The first short story is like 5 out of 5 quality. And it was so phenomenal, so heartbreaking, that it just blew my mind. I know I keep using that term as well, but it literally did. It blew my mind. A lot of these books blew my mind. But then I read the other 3 short stories, because The Red Pony is a collection of 4 short stories. Even though they're shorter, yeah, they're kind of trash. In fact, they're completely pointless. They shouldn't be there. The Red Pony should have just been a short story. It's just because that short story was so good, and the other 3 are so flat and forgettable. Like, I barely remember anything. I think one of them is about their grandfather going into town, and it's just Why? Why do you exist? And for that reason, I had to bump it down to 3.5 out of 5 stars because it just... Man, only 1 out of the 4 worked, but that one worked so well, and the other 3 aren't really that bad, they're just... meh. But, do I still recommend The Red Pony? Yes, just for that first short story alone. It's still great. Actually, no, it's not great. That short story is great. You know what I mean. The next book that I read is the final book of the Lord of the Rings series, The Return of the King. I finally finished the whole novel series, and what did I think of it? It was absolutely fantastic. Of course, it's Lord of the Rings, it's Tolkien, of course he's gonna be fantastic, or Tolkien, I don't know how to say his name, but I'm gonna call him Tolkien because that's how I view this. But, oh my goodness, he is such a fantastic writer. He is such a fantastic writer. Like I said in my December wrap-up video, his world just keeps on building and building and building to such detailed levels that legit, there's like, all of this is like indexes and appendixes for the entire Middle-earth world. And then there's the Silmarillion, which is pretty much like a whole novel dedicated to the creation of Middle-earth, like the early stories of Middle-earth. And I'm planning on reading that novel, don't worry, it's on the list to read. But Return of the King was a fantastic ending to a fantastic series. I can't recommend this to enough, even to people that aren't really into reading. It's just great. Even though it's really tiny text. I mean, look at that. It just flies by because you're just so connected to these characters that you just want to be in this world forever. And that's how I felt like reading this book. However, I do still prefer, I'm gonna get some hate here, but I actually prefer The Sandman by Neil Gaiman more than Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Opinions. But, does that mean Lord of the Rings is bad? No! It's still amazing! Read this! It's so good. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm just dragging this on now, but Return of the King, though read Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers first, definitely. The next book in my pile is easily the worst book I've read in months. It is probably the worst book I've read since The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. And I'm about to get so much hate here for this book. But it's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I read this yesterday, and I was stunned by how bad this is. I'm not even kidding. This is awful. This is so awful, yet I don't hate it. Even though I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars, that's just on quality standpoints. On a critical standpoint, it was so bad, so broken, that I kind of enjoyed it. It is so bad that I liked it. It's pretty much my version of The Room, even though I have seen The Room and, like, I don't know how to feel about The Room, but Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I was also heavily disappointed by this book, because for me, this wasn't a travesty from the start, because the premise was really good. For me, this was just a really bad book, but with a good book trying to get out of it. But does that mean this book is good? No, don't read it. If you want my opinion, don't read it. I don't know how this has like a 4.07 on Goodreads, but yeah, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? This made me realize that maybe science fiction isn't up my alley, or at least the type of science fiction that Philip K. Dick was telling. So yeah, not reading any more Philip K. Dick, that's for sure. The next book that I read is The Stranger by Albert Camus. I read this in a day. It's incredibly short. It's like 120 pages, but it's so good. It really is good. Even though The Plague, I really don't like The Plague, this book is just brilliant. It's about a man whose mother dies, and then he goes to a beach, and then he kills a man himself. That's literally the story. That technically is a spoiler, actually, even though it says it in the blurb, but oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The way that Camus writes the themes in this book is the complete opposite of The Plague. It is so beautifully crafted together and strung together that it's just so perfect. Actually, no, it's not perfect. If I were to see any flaw with this, is that I know this is kind of bratty on my part, but it's kind of too short. It should be like 20 pages longer, because I do want to see what Camus can do with this type of story in 150 so pages. But am I happy with what I got? Definitely. I'm happy to say that I finally liked the Albert Camus novel, even though I've only read 2. But hey, it was good enough for me to buy it. That's a good thing. The next book in the pile. I technically am still reading this book, but I'm so far into it that I can safely say that I'm pretty much a good ways into this book that I can at least discuss it. And I can safely say it is the best book that I've read so far. Like, it's the best book that I've read since Cat's Cradle. It's Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Oh my God, this book is the definition of brilliance. It is the definition of pure glory packed into 150 pages. You could tell that Bradbury took all of these amazing descriptions and just crafted it together in such a way to create such a masterpiece of a story that anybody can connect with. Like, I've seen people that, like, we're studying this in school, and people that are not even into reading at all are loving this book. And even though it might not be as passionate as me, like, I'm seriously the person that may like this book the most, but oh my goodness, Fahrenheit 451, it's the best book that I've read so far this year. It is pure brilliance. It's pure gold. Ray Bradbury has easily become an author that I want to get it more into. Just Fahrenheit 451. I know I haven't talked about the characters. In fact, I'll talk about the characters real quick. I hate Mildred. I hate Mildred so much. Holy moly, she just needs to go away now. But yes. I've only talked about one character, but whatever. I'll do a more in-depth video about this book later, because I know this book backwards and forwards now, but Fahrenheit 451. Read it. It's the best. And then the final 3 books. I can't believe I've already read 3 books from this author in this short amount of time. 3 Kurt Vonnegut books. 3 Kurt Vonnegut books in 13 days, with all of these plus 3 more books that I don't have with me. Meh. But the first one I want to show is Slapstick. Slapstick. I thought Confederacy of Dunces was insane. This makes a Confederacy of Dunces look like I don't know what to describe this. I don't know how to even describe books that are less sane than this. This is how insane this book is. Like I said in my haul video, this book should be in a mental asylum. It really should. It's so, like, unclean. It's so just out of this world that you literally have no idea what's going on at points, but then you immediately grab the concept right after you say that statement. It takes the words right out of your mouth. It's just, and for that reason, I love it. It's brilliant. I truly love this book. It's just great. Slapstick, Kurt Vonnegut said that this was his least favorite book when, like, after his whole novel career was over. He said that out of all the books that he wrote, this is the one he liked the least. I say bullcrap. I actually didn't like Player Piano. I actually like this better than both Player Piano and Breakfast of Champions. But Slapstick, it's so good. It really is a fantastic book. But like I said, don't start with this. If you're new to Vonnegut, do not start with this. This book will just destroy you and make you confused, and it just, I cannot even explain the rest of this book. I can't explain the story. I can't explain the characters. I can't even explain the setting. It's so odd. It goes all over the place, but in such a way that you can tell that it is good, for which it is. I can highly recommend this book, only if you've read other Vonnegut books, because you don't start with this. Just plainly start. It's brilliant, but don't start with it. The second to last book in the video will be Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. This is his first novel, and yeah, I can definitely see why it's his first novel. I like this better than Breakfast of Champions, but even though I do really like this novel, I still gave it like a 4 out of 5. I mean, good gracious. It's one of the weaker Vonneguts that I've read. And the text is a lot tinier, even though that's not a flaw with the book, that's just how the way it's printed, but Player Piano, it's his longest book as well. It goes up to like 350 pages, which is very long for a Vonnegut novel. And it just, I don't know. It just didn't have the same oomph that Vonnegut usually has. It doesn't have like that Cat's Cradle or thing, or Slaughterhouse 5 thing, or another book's thing, which will be the last book I'll talk about. But Player Piano, it's still good, but also don't start with this. Not because it's so barbaric for normal readers, but it's just pretty bland, believe it or not. That's my major problem with this book. It's more bland than what you think, especially for a Vonnegut novel. In fact, I may be starting to think that this will be my least favorite, because it just has the least of an impact on me. At least I remember stuff from Breakfast of Champions. This book is slowly fading away, and I only read this like 2 weeks ago, so Kurt Vonnegut, even though this is the first book that I've read in a year, it's good, but not the best. But what is the best, however, is God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut. This is hands down the most underrated Vonnegut book. It is now my favorite besides Cat's Cradle and Slaughterhouse 5. Oh my goodness. God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. Everybody, drop what you're doing. Drop whatever you have, no matter if it's like a cat or something. Read God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. I read this book in like an hour and a half. It was that good. I read this book in one sitting. Not one day. I did that also reading in one day, but one sitting. This, I love this book. Elliot Rosewater is such a unique character. That's the best way I can describe him. He's unique. He's a drunk. He is president of a famous society, like a foundation, and it says on the back that he's a volunteer fireman. It barely talks about that in the book, believe it or not. And they also put Kilgore Trout in the board, but he barely appears in the book as well. He like appears at the very end, and he's not even in that part for that long. He's just like, hey, look at me, and I gotta go, see ya. But this book is still fantastic. It's easy 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I just devoured this novel, like to bits. It's so good. It is so good. It is so good. It captures everything that I love in Vonnegut. It even has some phrases that can be found in Slaughterhouse 5, which was his next novel. So no wonder this was good. It was between his 2 best books, and it definitely shows. But man, I love this book. What else do I have to say? So that was the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment down below what you guys have been reading recently, and I'll probably respond. In fact, I'll most likely respond because I like to respond to comments because I love comments. If you want to do something for me, leave a comment. That's the best way. That makes my day. But anyway, I'm going to end it here. I'm Mega Man Chief Fan, and I'll see you later, guys.